What if I told you there's a single fundamental principle from physics that might just explain, well, pretty much everything? I'm talking about our health, how we age, and maybe even the nature of time itself. It sounds, impossible, right? But the key to unlocking this whole idea starts with a really simple question that seems to break the rules of math.
How can 1 plus 1 possibly equal 4? And no, this isn't some trick question or a riddle. In the world of physics, this is a real, measurable thing that happens all the time. And understanding how it happens, well, that's the key that unlocks everything we're going to talk about.
The secret is a phenomenon called constructive interference. So picture two waves rippling across a pond. If they're perfectly synchronized, their peaks and troughs line up exactly, they don't just add up, they amplify each other. The new combined wave is suddenly twice as high. But here's the kicker. Wave power is the square of its height. So 2 squared is 4. You get 4 times the energy from two waves. It's all about that perfect synchronization.
This big idea is called coherence, and the best way to think about it is to compare a laser beam to a regular light bulb. A laser is the perfect example of coherence. All its light waves are marching in perfect lockstep, synchronized. That creates focused, immense power. A light bulb, on the other hand, is total chaos. That's incoherence. Its waves are all jumbled, unsynchronized, and spreading out in every direction. One is like a perfectly disciplined army, the other is just a disorganized crowd.
Now, this whole principle has a flip side. When waves are perfectly in phase, you get that powerful amplification. That's the 1 plus 1 equals 4 that makes high-power lasers work. But what if they're perfectly out of phase? They actually cancel each other out completely. That's called destructive interference, and that's our 1 plus 1 equals 0. It's literally the technology behind your noise-canceling headphones. But here's the thing. This isn't just about light and sound, not even close.
So why are we talking about all this physics? Because this very same principle is playing out inside your body right now. In a very, very real sense, we are all just biological orchestras.
And who's the conductor of this orchestra? Well, it's your heart. The electromagnetic field generated by your heartbeat is a staggering 50 to 60 times stronger than all the electrical activity in your brain. That makes your heart by far the most powerful and rhythmic generator of coherent signals in your entire body.
And this is where it gets really fascinating. When you consciously slow down your breathing to match your heart rate, your body's systems literally lock into the same rhythm. It's called phase locking. All of a sudden, your heart, your lungs, your nervous system, they're all oscillating in perfect harmony. And this isn't just some nice feeling. This state of heart coherence leads to measurable boosts in immune function and a serious reduction in stress. You are literally creating biological constructive interference inside yourself.
And once you start looking for it, you see this principle everywhere in the body. That deep sense of calm you get from meditation? Yep, that's millions of your neurons firing in a coherent, synchronized pattern. Your actual muscle strength? That's just your brain telling thousands of muscle fibers to fire together in perfect sync. Even your daily energy cycle, your circadian rhythm, is nothing more than trillions of your cells oscillating together in one grand, coherent dance.
Okay, so if health is this state of maximum coherence, where all our biological systems are amplifying each other, then let's flip that on its head. What is disease? Thinking this way can completely change how we look at the human body.
For centuries, we've basically used a mechanical model for the body. We think of it like a car, a collection of parts that can break down and need to be fixed or replaced. But what if that's just the wrong analogy entirely? What if the body isn't like a car at all, but much more like an orchestra, a coherent system of waves, where the most important thing isn't the individual instruments, but how well they all play in tune together?
When you look at it this way, the two views are totally different. The old mechanical view says disease comes from broken parts that need chemical fixes. But this new coherence view, it sees disease as dysynchronization, the body's systems just falling out of tune. So healing isn't about replacing a part, it's about restoring the body's natural harmony. Health is simply the quality of the music your orchestra is playing.
So if coherence is health, then every story needs a villain, right? In this one, the villain is decoherence. This is the gradual loss of synchronization. It's when your systems fall out of phase, creating biological noise instead of music. And this might just be the true root of dysfunction.
This even gives us a radical new way to think about aging. What if aging isn't really about accumulating damage over time? What if it's actually about a slow, steady loss of coherence? Think about it. A kid's body heals incredibly fast, right? That's because their cellular communication is at its absolute peak of coherence.
An older person heals much more slowly because that synchronization has started to weaken. Maybe age-related diseases are just the final, chaotic result of all these different systems falling out of tune one after the other.
All right, now we're going to take this idea to its ultimate mind-bending conclusion. If coherence governs not just physics but life itself, could it also explain the fabric of reality? It even reframes evolution. Maybe it was never just about survival of the fittest. Maybe it's actually been about the survival of the most coherent. The organisms that are best at maintaining their internal orchestra against all the chaos of the outside world. Which, of course, leads us to the biggest question of all. If coherence governs life and death, could it also be the key to explaining the passage of time?
Well, following these principles leads to a speculative and pretty radical new equation for time. And what it suggests is that time isn't some constant universal thing. It's something that emerges from the interplay between three key variables.
Okay, let's quickly break this down so it makes sense. First, information is just how complex a system is. Think about the intricate structure of a person versus a simple rock. Coherence is how well all those complex parts work together. That's our orchestra. And energy is just how fast that whole system is changing. So this equation is basically saying that our experience of time is a relationship between how complex and organized something is and how quickly it's transforming. But look, any new equation in physics has to pass a reality check. It has to actually work. So let's test it. What does this equation predict for something we know a lot about, like a particle of light, a photon? Well, we know from Einstein's relativity that from a photon's own point of view, it experiences zero time, none. It doesn't matter if it travels for a second or for a billion years. For the photon itself, the journey is instantaneous. And would you look at that? The equation predicts this perfectly. A photon has very, very low information. It's super simple, but it has maximum energy because it's moving at the speed of light. And as you know from math, when you divide a tiny number by a gigantic one, the result gets incredibly close to zero. The equation actually works. So a photon's timeless journey isn't some weird paradox, it's just a predictable outcome of having very little complexity and a whole lot of energy. The fact that this new, speculative equation correctly predicts one of Einstein's proven realities, that's some pretty powerful evidence. This all points to a completely radical new definition of time. It suggests time isn't a river that we're all flowing down. Instead, time is simply the measurement of decoherence. It's the rate at which an organized, coherent system loses its synchronization and dissolves back into chaos. That ticking clock you hear is really just the sound of an orchestra slowly, inevitably, falling out of tune. So, if this one single principle really does connect physics, our bodies, and the nature of time, it leaves us with one last pretty profound question. If you start to view your own life, your thoughts, your health, your relationships as one big interference pattern, you have to ask yourself, how well tuned is your orchestra?